My friends, I need you to stop what you are doing right now, because what I am about to share with you could mean the difference between losing up to $2,400 or keeping that money safely in your pocket where it belongs. I know that sounds dramatic, but I have been helping folks just like you navigate Social Security for years, and I am seeing too many good people lose money simply because they did not know about a deadline that is coming up faster than you might think. January 31st is just days away, and if you are collecting Social Security retirement benefits, SSI or SSDI, there is a critical action you might need to take before that date passes you by. Now, I am not here to scare you, but I am here to make sure you are protected because the Social Security Administration does not always make these deadlines crystal clear, and by the time some folks realize what happened, it is too late to fix it. I have seen retirees who worked their whole lives paid into the system for 40 years or more, only to discover they overpaid taxes or missed out on adjustments that could have put real money back into their monthly budget. We are talking about money that could cover your prescriptions, help with groceries, or just give you a little breathing room each month. So, please stay with me for the next few minutes, because I am going to walk you through exactly what this deadline means, who it affects, and most importantly, what you need to do right now to protect yourself and your hard-earned benefits. Let me start by explaining what is really happening here. Because the government does not exactly send you a letter with big red letters saying, "Warning, you are about to lose money." Instead, these deadlines slip by quietly, and it is up to us to stay informed and take action. The January 31st deadline I am talking about today relates to several different situations that could affect your Social Security benefits, your taxes, and even your ability to appeal decisions that might have reduced your monthly check. Think of it this way, my friends. When you are dealing with Social Security, there are windows of opportunity, and when those windows close, they often lock tight. The Social Security Administration operates on strict timelines, and while they are generally there to help us, they also have rules they have to follow. And those rules do not bend just because we missed a date on the calendar. First and foremost, if you received any kind of notice from Social Security in late 2024 about an overpayment, a benefit reduction, or a decision you disagreed with, you typically have 60 days from the date on that notice to file an appeal or request a reconsideration. Now, here is where it gets tricky and where that January 31st deadline comes into play for many of you. If you received a notice in early December, your 60-day window might be closing right at the end of this month. I have talked to folks who received letters saying they were overpaid by $2,000, $3,500, even more, and Social Security wanted to start taking money out of their monthly checks to get it back. Imagine you are living on $1,500 a month, and suddenly they are telling you they are going to withhold $200 every month until the overpayment is recovered. That is a huge hit to your budget, and it can happen if you do not appeal within that 60-day window. Let me give you a real example that might sound familiar. Dorothy, a 72-year-old retired teacher from Ohio, contacted me last year in a panic. She had been receiving her Social Security retirement benefits just fine for years, but then she got a letter in November saying that back in 2023, she had actually been overpaid by nearly $1,800 because of a pension she was receiving that should have reduced her Social Security amount. The letter said they were going to start withholding the full 10% from her monthly benefit until the debt was paid. Dorothy was devastated because she genuinely did not know she needed to report that pension differently, and she certainly did not have an extra $1,800 sitting around to pay it back. But here is the important part. She only had until late January to appeal that decision and request a waiver, arguing that the overpayment was not her fault and that paying it back would cause her financial hardship. She filed her appeal on January 28th, just 3 days before her deadline, and eventually, Social Security agreed to waive most of that overpayment. If she had waited just a few more days, She would have lost her right to appeal, and that money would have been gone. Now, the $2,400 I mentioned in the title is not just a random number I pulled out of thin air. For many of you, this represents the maximum amount you could potentially lose or protect, depending on your specific situation. Some of you might be facing overpayment claims. Others might be missing out on tax benefits if you do not file certain forms by the end of January, and still others might qualify for retroactive adjustments that require action before the month ends. Let me break down the most common scenarios I am seeing right now. If you are collecting Social Security and you also have other income like a pension, part-time work, or investment income, the IRS requires you to report certain things by January 31st to avoid penalties and make sure your withholding is correct for the year. I am talking about Form W-4V if you want to have voluntary tax withholding from your Social Security benefits, or updating your withholding preferences if your financial situation changed in 2024. A lot of folks do not realize that Social Security benefits can be taxable depending on your total income. And if you are not having enough withheld throughout the year, you could end up with a surprise tax bill come April. On the flip side, if you are having too much withheld, you are essentially giving the government an interest-free loan when that money could be in your account helping you pay bills right now. Here is how the math works, and this is important. If you are single and your combined income, that is your adjusted gross income, plus half of your Social Security benefits, plus any tax-exempt interest. If that total is more than $25,000, up to 50% of your benefits could be taxable. If it is above $34,000, up to 85% could be taxable. For married couples filing jointly, those thresholds are $32,000 and $44,000, respectively. So let us say you are getting $1,800 a month in Social Security. That is $21,600 a year. And you have also got a small pension of $12,000 a year. Your combined income would be around $38,400 once you add in half your Social Security, which means a significant portion of your benefits could be taxed. If you have not adjusted your withholding and you end up owing $2,000 or more to the IRS in April, you could also face underpayment penalties. But if you submit that W-4V form before January 31st, you can have the right amount withheld starting next month, protecting yourself from that surprise bill and those penalties. Another critical issue I am seeing involves SSI recipients who had changes in their living situation or income in 2024, but did not report them within the 10-day window that the Social Security Administration requires. The agency is now sending out notices to folks saying they were overpaid because their benefit amount should have been adjusted months ago. If you received one of these overpayment notices in December, your deadline to appeal or request a waiver is coming up at the end of January. I cannot stress this enough. If you are on SSI and you receive any notice about an overpayment, you must act quickly. SSI is a needs-based program and the rules are strict about reporting changes. But the good news is that if you can show the overpayment was not your fault and that repaying it would defeat the purpose of SSI, which is to help you meet basic needs for food and shelter, there is a very good chance Social Security will waive that debt. Let me tell you about Robert, a 67-year-old veteran on SSDI who also receives a small VA pension. Last year, his VA payment increased because of the COLA adjustment, but he did not realize he needed to report that increase to Social Security within 10 days. Several months later, he got a letter saying he had been overpaid on his SSDI by nearly $2,100, and they were going to start withholding money from his disability check. Robert was already struggling to make ends meet on his fixed income, and the thought of losing even more each month was overwhelming. He came to me just a week before his appeal deadline at the end of January, and we immediately filed for a reconsideration and a waiver. We explained that he is on a fixed income, he has significant medical expenses, and that the overpayment occurred because he genuinely did not understand the reporting requirements, not because he was trying to cheat the system. Social Security reviewed his case and agreed to waive the entire overpayment. Robert did not lose a single penny, but only because he acted before that deadline passed. Now, for those of you who are still working while collecting Social Security before your full retirement age, there is another January 31st deadline you need to know about. If you are under your full retirement age for all of 2025, Social Security will withhold $1 for every $2 you earn above the annual limit, which is $23,400 this year. If you are going to reach your full retirement age sometime in 2025, the limit is higher, $62,160, and they will only withhold $1 for every $3 above that amount. But here is the thing. If you went over that earnings limit in 2024 and you have not reported your earnings to Social Security yet, you need to do that right away. If they find out later that you earned more than you reported, they could hit you with an overpayment claim that could be substantial. I am talking about folks who could owe back $2,000, $3,000, even $4,000 or more if they had significant earnings they did not report properly. The smart strategy here is to get ahead of it. If you worked in 2024 and you are not sure whether you reported everything correctly, call Social Security at 1-800-7223 before the end of January and verify your earnings record. Yes, I know the wait times can be long, sometimes an hour or more, but it is worth it to protect yourself from a massive overpayment claim down the road. When you call, have your Social Security number ready. Be prepared to verify your identity and ask them specifically to review your earnings for 2024 and confirm whether any withholding should have occurred. If there was an issue, it is much better to address it now, while you still have options, than to wait for that overpayment notice to arrive in the mail months from now, when your window to appeal is much shorter. For my friends who are on SSDI, there is also a work incentive program that many people do not know about. And January 31st can be an important deadline for reporting your trial work period months. If you are on disability and you have been trying to go back to work either part-time or in a limited capacity, you are allowed to test your ability to work for up to 9 months without losing your benefits, as long as you report it properly. But if you do not report those work months correctly and on time, Social Security might decide you are no longer disabled and cut off your benefits entirely, or they might say you earn too much and create an overpayment situation. The key is documentation and timely reporting. And if you had any work activity in late 2024, make sure you have reported it before this month ends. Let me also talk about something that could actually put money in your pocket rather than take it away. If you are a widow or widower and you are currently collecting your own retirement benefit, but your deceased spouse had a higher benefit amount, you might be entitled to switch to a survivor benefit that would give you more money each month. But there are deadlines for claiming retroactive benefits. And depending on when your spouse passed away and when you applied, you might only have a limited window to claim those back payments. If your spouse passed away in 2024 and you have not yet applied for survivor benefits, you should do that immediately, because you could be entitled to several months of retroactive payments. However, if you wait too long, you might only be able to claim benefits going forward, not backward, and you could lose out on thousands of dollars. The same goes for divorced spouses who might be entitled to benefits based on their ex-spouse's work record. If you were married for at least 10 years, you are currently unmarried, and your ex-spouse is entitled to Social Security benefits, you might qualify for a divorced spouse benefit that could be worth up to 50% of their full retirement amount. But again, there are time limits on retroactive benefits. And if you do not apply soon, you could miss out on money that is rightfully yours. So, what do you need to do right now today to protect yourself before January 31st arrives? First, go through any mail you received from Social Security in the last 60 days. Look for any notices about overpayments, benefit reductions, or decisions you disagreed with. If you find anything like that, check the date on the letter and count forward 60 days. If that deadline is coming up at the end of January, you need to file an appeal or request for reconsideration immediately. You can do this online at ssa.gov, by phone, or by visiting your local Social Security office. Do not put it off, because once that deadline passes, your options become very limited. Second, if you have any other income besides Social Security, and you are not sure if you are having the right amount of taxes withheld, get that Form W-4V submitted before the month ends. You can download it from the IRS website, fill it out, and submit it to Social Security. This could save you from a painful tax bill and penalties later this year. Third, if you are working while collecting benefits and you are under your full retirement age, verify that you have reported all your earnings correctly. Make that phone call even if it means waiting on hold, because it is worth it to avoid an overpayment situation. And finally, if you think you might be entitled to benefits you are not currently receiving, whether that is survivor benefits, divorced spouse benefits, or any other type of benefit, apply now. The sooner you apply, the more retroactive payments you might be able to claim. My friends, I know dealing with Social Security can feel overwhelming, and I know these deadlines can sneak up on us, but you have worked too hard and paid into this system for too many years to let money slip away simply because you did not know about a deadline. $2,400 might not sound like a fortune to some people, but I know for most of you watching, that is real money that could make a real difference in your life. That could be 3 months of groceries, 6 months of medication, or just the peace of mind that comes from having a little cushion in your bank account. So, please take these next few days seriously. Go through your paperwork, make those phone calls, and take whatever action you need to take to protect what is yours. You have earned these benefits, and you deserve every penny. Do not let a deadline take that away from you. Stay informed, stay proactive, and remember, I am always here bringing you these updates because I care about you and your financial security. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next update.